Now, at the rate my next guest's progress is going, you would be brave to bet against her being at the Breeders' Cup next year. This year might be a bit of a stretch, but she has crammed so much in to 19 years. She's been a 5-time European International Pony Eventing medalist before switching her attentions to horse racing. It has only been just over a year since she had her first ride. She's already had 40 winners. She's second in the Apprentice Championship, and that notwithstanding 2 pretty serious falls and a couple of quite significant injuries. But she's back and she's here in the studio today en route to York. Saffie Osborne, good morning.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Oh, a lot's happened, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been busy.
I mean, you reached, not the summit, because that would have been the senior level, but in terms of what you were doing, junior eventing and pony eventing, you got to the very top. You had a glorious career played out before you and switched your attentions to racing. Have you made the right choice?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think I always saw my future in racing. I was very lucky that I got the opportunities from Lord and Lady Blythe to ride the 2 horses that I did, and it took me and won me 5 European Championship medals. And but no, I think my focus was always going to be into racing.
So how much has that background, that eventing background, that general equestrian background helped you?
Not so much in my riding sense. I think it's so different. There's not much you can take from the way you ride eventing to racing, but sort of the mental aspects of it, and learning how to cope with pressure from such an early age. Like, I jumped on my first English team when I was 12 or 13, so from early on you're learning that it's not all about you, it's about the team around you, and you've got to get results for them.
Now, people will know that you're from a racing background. Your father, Jamie, was one of the most stylish riders that people saw over
God,
jumps.
don't tell him that.
It's true. He's now quite self-deprecating about it, but he will also say, and he said it to me again yesterday, that the determination that you have and the strength of character you have is all from your mum, Katie. Would you agree?
Probably. I think I remember reading an article he did after one of my European Championships, and he said, I thought I was competitive, and then I met my wife, and we've bred a competitive hybrid. So I say my competitiveness can be good in some ways and bad in others.
Were you competitive at school?
Very, yes. I've probably lost a few friends over competitiveness.
But to the point that you then wanted to ride full-time, and everything else that you could have excelled in had to take a back seat. How much time did it take to make that decision?
The decision, probably not very long, but the transition, it was over a few years. I think I always wanted to do it. I started riding out for Dad when I was just turned 12, and from then, the minute I sat on a racehorse, I knew that's what I wanted to do. When I left school, I then went to Aidan O'Brien's for the season, and I learnt so much there, and I'm really grateful for that experience as well.
Tell me a little bit about riding at Ballydoyle.
Oh, it's like a kid going into a candy shop. It's like all the horses that you walk into the arena for the first morning, and every horse has their name on the number cloth, not the number cloth, sorry, their saddle pad. And it's like, those are the horses as a kid, they're the ones that you see on TV, they're not the ones that are right next to you. So to have sat on some unbelievable horses is just an experience you wouldn't normally get.
What I find extraordinary about going to Ballydoyle is you can recognise every horse just by pedigree. You don't even need to know their name, because he quite often has the pedigree sort of abbreviated onto the saddle.
Yeah, it's crazy when you see like Peeping Fawn underneath the name, and all the other incredible mares. And yeah, it's quite interesting as well, because by the end you know every single horse's pedigree just because you're just like unintentionally looking at it every day. And no, it's amazing.
What about the regime though? How did that differ from anything you'd seen before?
It was amazing. Look, it was very different the way he does it, and I think it's known that he tends to work his horses quite hard, and I loved that because they weren't very fresh. And I was
well drilled.
Yeah, I was very lucky that I was able to ride work there as well on a pretty daily basis, and doing that, I was 17 at the time, and you really get to learn what a good horse is. I was very lucky that I rode Broom every day, And now to see him go on and win his Group 1 this year was amazing. But no, I was unbelievably lucky to get that experience.
That's interesting. So you were riding him every day. So that sense of continuity is obviously very important to Aidan, sort of building a horse's his career like that.
Yeah, definitely. I rode him, I think, from my second week there, I rode him every day until I left there. And I think he's massive in getting people to build a relationship with that horse, so that if there isn't something they don't think there's something quite right with them, they know, rather than if you have a different rider on them every day, they wouldn't necessarily know how they felt yesterday or how they felt the day before. And kind of, building that relationship with horses.
So you came back from Ireland knowing what a good horse felt like. How much did that help you when you went into race riding?
Yeah, massively. Look, I definitely haven't ridden some of the standard that were at Aidan's, but I got to ride a really nice filly for Mr. Charlton the other day, Jumbly for Emmy Rothschild. And she's a lovely filly, and it's just nice to have ridden something like that on the track.
Is that the closest you've come on the track to thinking, oh, this could be quite special?
Yeah, definitely. Look, the way she quickened up, turning in, and how straightforward she was through the race, I can't fault her. There was nothing that you couldn't like about her.
I said you packed an awful lot into a year, not just great highs, but some significant blips as well. At Windsor last autumn, you had a horrific fall. Can you remember much about it?
No, I don't remember anything about it. I had 5 rides that day, and that was my last one. I could tell you everything about my other rides, and I have no recollection of even getting on that horse. I remember, the first thing I remember was waking up in hospital. I don't really remember anything of being on the track at all.
And just remind us exactly how badly you injured yourself.
I had broken the bone in my arm, but it wasn't as simple as a clean break. It had dislocated my wrist, and that bone had also then dislocated itself from my elbow. I then punctured my lungs as well, and I had a pretty severe concussion, which you probably don't appreciate until later on, because you have so many physical ailments that that's what you notice more, and then the concussion kind of catches up with you a little bit.
So did it just take you a little while to recover from that mentally as well as physically?
I think not so much. There was no hesitation about riding, because I don't remember any of it. There was never any doubt of that's what I was going to do, but it took me 6 months to be back on the track. Like, it was a long time, and it probably would have been even more than that without Oaksey House and the Injured Jockeys Fund. They were unbelievable. I had my fall on the Monday, and I left hospital on the Saturday. And from the following Monday, I was in there for every day for 6 months.
How easy were you to live with at that point?
Not very at all. I think Dad was ready for me to move out. My mother barely spoke to me. I think I was fairly intolerable.
And how did it feel when you finally were able to get back on a horse? That must have been a good day.
Yeah, it was amazing. I had my first couple of rides at Wolverhampton in March, and no, it was brilliant. And it just, everyone around you kind of, I think George Baker was just about as excited as I was when I was back riding, because he's been a massive part of my journey, and he had done so much work with me whilst I was off, and it's not even so much just kind of the physical side, it's trying to keep your brain in the right place, because when you used to riding horses every day of your life since I was tiny, and then all of a sudden you just can't do it. And I was very lucky. I didn't really get injured that much when I was younger, so I never really had a period of time where I couldn't sit on a horse. And yeah, I think it's the mental side of it when you can't do something, and there's so many people around you that help you build back up to that. So the day that I got to ride again, it was brilliant.
And talking to you quite a bit and knowing you for a few years, you thrive on work, don't you? You thrive on the business of doing it. You're not someone who wants to ever really sit still and take it easy.
No, I don't really know what to do when I have a day off. I try to not give myself too many, because even if there's, if there's never a morning that I don't think there isn't ever a morning that I'm not riding out, really, even if I'm not riding. But no, I've always someone that's thrived on working and working hard.
And in terms of this season, we were talking a little while ago about where you sit in the Apprentice Championship. I can tell how much it annoys you that the answer to that question is second and not first. Is there still life in this battle?
I think I'll struggle this year. I obviously had an injury again in the middle of the season. It seriously put a dent on my chances.
Yeah, just a fractured tibia.
Hairline. But look, Marco's had an absolutely phenomenal season, and I can't knock that. I think there's been a couple of things that I just feel haven't quite gone my way, but I wouldn't be one to kind of say, oh, it's because of this or because of that. I think I just got to work harder for next year and go at it again.
And in terms of goals, are you someone who sets yourself numerical goals, big race goals, amount of rides, is that what drives you forward?
Yes, I think I've always been someone that wants to just be the best at whatever they're doing. I would set myself numerical goals, big race goals, but obviously I wouldn't talk about them too much because you might sound delusional. But obviously as a kid you grow up and there's always big races you want to win. Like, to me, the Arc de Triomphe is like it's where the best horses meet, and from all age categories and sex categories. So for me, I remember growing up and my favourite horse was See the Stars, and watching that was just phenomenal. And other things like I'd love to win a Breeders' Cup Classic to kind of redo Dad's history when he was so unlucky with Toast. And it's just stuff like that, but it's not stuff you kind of talk about or really think about. Obviously, it's always going to be like you dream as a kid, but it's stuff that it takes a lot of hard work and you have to be very good.
The good thing is that no one's watching, so it's just between you and me. I won't tell everyone that you've come on and said it's my dream to win the Arc and the Breeders' Cup Classic. But in fairness, 2 years ago we could have had this conversation and you said, well, I'm going to have my first ride in July, and then within a year I want to be challenging for the Apprentice Championship and I want to have ridden 45 winners. People might have thought, well, that's probably pushing it a little bit. And that's happened fairly easily. Yeah,
I think I never pony raced. Like most kids now going into racing have pony raced or that sort of stuff, but I'd never done that. So for me, it was going into the complete unknown when I started racing. So it was quite hard to put targets on it straight away. But I feel like I'm someone that learns quite quickly, and I work extremely hard to make sure that I do learn quickly. So I don't know. I think I've always been one with rather unrealistic goals, but work really hard to try and make them realistic.
And also, what you have to do at the racecourse has possibly exceeded what other apprentices would have to do because you're so closely involved in a stable. So I've often seen you turn up, you're saddling up, you're doing everything, then you go in, then you change. Now, a lot of jockeys are used to that, particularly maybe more jump jockeys, but not fairly young apprentices at the beginning of their career.
Yeah, I try to make Dad come racing as much as I can. But no, not so much this year, but last season there was a lot of that. I'd get sent racing to saddle up one and then ride another one. But luckily I'm riding a few more of them now, so I have to do less saddling up.
Now, we've talked, and we're going to talk in a moment to the PJA chair, John Holmes, but we've talked quite a bit about jockeys' lifestyles recently, and particularly during the pandemic period. It's come under quite a bit of scrutiny. You're starting out. Can a jockey enjoy a sensible, healthy, productive lifestyle in tandem with a career as a rider?
Well, I'm enjoying it. Yes, I think so. I think it's all about balance, but that's kind of rich coming from me, I think, because I kind of my whole life is revolved around racing. And I think if you're a young sports person wanting to succeed in something, I think it has to be. But I think obviously there's a massive thing about trying to find the right balance for people. But I think racing is not just your job, it's a lifestyle and an obsession, really, more than anything.
A lifestyle, an obsession more than anything. And that's why, in many respects, even though all jockeys are self-employed individuals, you need systems in place to make sure that their lives and their lifestyles are well-marshalled and well looked after. John Holmes has been with us before on the show. He is the chair of the Professional Jockeys Association and joins me again this morning. Morning, John.
Good morning, Nick.
I'm sure you are as impressed with everybody watching as to what Saffie's been saying about her goals, her career, the way she's managed it so far.
She's a great talker, isn't she? And a great doer as well. Great strides. Credit to the profession, and it's great to see the profession being taken forward by females all over the sport. The last year has been really the story of the female jockey, hasn't it? Rachel Blackmore, Saffie, Holly, Bryony Frost, Paige Fuller. Tremendous progress made by them, but only 7% at the moment are female jockeys. But there are lots and lots, I think, of young girls there, young women who want to enter the profession. And one of the things we're trying to do at the moment is to make it easier, make the facilities better. The facilities for females at the moment are not good, and we need to improve them.
John, this is something we touched on very briefly last time you spoke on the programme, but you've done a little bit more research here. To what extent are you now trying to make a concerted effort and push the racecourses to improve those facilities for female jockeys?
We are absolutely doing that. Actually, last couple of days ago, we had a very constructive meeting with the Jockey Club, with Neville Truesdale there, and they're now committed to a programme of getting some of their courses, which are not as good as others, up to scratch. We're hoping to continue those talks with the RCA and with any track that isn't up to scratch. If you look at it at the moment, there are 26 with only one female shower, and these are courses that have races with female-only jockey races, up to 16 running in those. So there are certain. It's not just female facilities. The facilities for jockeys on the whole are not good enough at the moment. 13 racecourses only have 2 male showers, and at 7 courses there are no separate facilities for restroom facilities for the jockeys to eat their food and so on in the changing rooms and so on, which is not good enough, is it?
Well, you've got experience and you've got context to set this against through a number of different sports. Can you think of any other sport where the professionals, those who are on the field of play, if you like, are so inadequately catered for?
No, I can't. I've worked in quite a few sports. I've worked in football for a long time. I've worked in cricket. I've worked in rugby. And there's no doubt that well behind the times. The other area is in terms of discipline. No other professional sport would allow disciplinary panels to not include former professional riders. We only have one on the panel. In football and in rugby and in cricket, if there are disciplinary issues, you have a professional there sitting on the panel with 2 others, an ex-professional, who can give the professional side of the story.
John, recent developments, the PJA have asked the BHA to extend the period within which jockeys are only able to ride at 1 meeting per day. Do you believe this is it now for good? Well,
I'm certainly hoping so. We had a resounding result on the survey that we did. I think the pandemic, if anything, caused a lot of jockeys about their lifestyle, think about the pressures they were put under, the mental health pressures and so on. I heard some horrendous stories from them about the pressure they put themselves on to get to 2 meetings, some pretty reckless driving episodes, and a lot of them, which quite a few of them said to me, I should have been in real trouble over that. So I think we've made progress. I think if I've been in this job now 8 months, what I have learned is I'm disappointed at the level at which jockeys are allowed to participate of the sports. Most of the sports that have moved on in the last 60, 70 years have included professionals at top and at the heart of the development. I think one very senior former jockey said to me, jockeys are seen as a necessary evil in the sport. Well, that shouldn't be the case. And if anything, I'm there to say to the jockeys, you need to stand up and you need to be respected for what you do. Saffie said there about the risks that jockeys take and so on. The public are interested, in the athletes. They're not interested in administrators and people like that. The people that are the jockeys and the horses, and they're the people who we should be listening to. We can't actually listen to the horses, so I think the jockeys are the closest people to them who we should be helping to run the sport and promote the sport. We've seen, haven't we, in the last 12 months, a lot more jockeys getting interviewed after races. It engages people. People learn more about the sport and so on. And that helps get more, hopefully, back to watching racing on the racecourses.
John, thanks so much for your time this morning.
Pleasure.
John Holmes, the chairman of the Professional Jockeys Association. Interesting thoughts. I must say, I didn't realise quite how lacking some of the facilities were for all riders, let alone in female changing rooms.
Yeah, I think, like he said that obviously for cricket and football, the female changing areas are much better, but you've also got to remember that in football and cricket, there's a set number of people, like however many people are in a team, whereas when these facilities were probably built for women, there was only under a handful of female jockeys riding, whereas now you walk in and the changing room's full. So I think it's just making sure that these places are fit for purpose.
Yeah, and that you can then exist through your afternoon in comfort, particularly if you are now only going to be riding at one meeting, and those meetings are extended to 8 and 9 race cards. It's going to be a long and intense afternoon. Well,
I just hope I don't spend too much time in the weighing room and then on a horse. But no, it's good. I can't comment on what it was like before when people could do 2 meetings because I never got to do that. But I think there's bonuses and negatives to either side of it. I think I've noticed there's a couple of times where you think, oh, for example, I could have ridden at Ascot and Kempton on Friday, but then there's also times where you think I've actually picked up a few more rides that day because someone couldn't be there. So there's always going to be positives and negatives to each situation.
And I suppose it's a philosophical thing in a sense as to the extent to which you should be looked after and the extent to which you should be responsible for yourself.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think there's been people have made their opinions quite clear that some people have said, well, if I want to work, I'm self-employed. If I want to work, why am I not allowed to? Which is fair enough. And I think there was a limit, like, was it 10 meetings a week? So
I think it was 9, wasn't it?
9, sorry. So then in theory, if you're riding 7 days a week, you could only do double meetings 2 times that week. So I suppose it was up to people to choose what they wanted to do, but now the decision's been made for them. Now,
we've talked a little bit about goals a long way in the future. Well, maybe next year, actually. Arc and Breeders' Cup Classic. But, what about more immediately? In the best case scenario, how would you like to finish off 2021, which has not been without its challenges?
I'd just like to keep riding more winners, really. I'm riding for some really good people that are supporting me, and I'd just like to keep riding winners for them. Obviously, in the back of my mind this year that, like, everyone's always going to have goals, and I think, obviously in the back of my mind that I wanted to try and go for the Apprentice Championship, and it hasn't quite happened. So I just kind of look forward to next year and not waste. I'm hopefully going to be going away for the winter, and to not waste my claim over the winter and try and have a go at it next year.
Where are you going to go?
Hopefully towards the Middle East. So either Bahrain or Dubai, which should be a brilliant experience. And obviously Bahrain have got their new international series over there, which I think my dad will be taking some horses out for. So that's really exciting, and hopefully I can be a bit of a part of that.
Yeah, that would be huge. And would there be any ambition to carry on with the eventing at all, or is that over now?
That's over. Yeah, it's completely over. The horse that I've had him for 6 years, and he got up to 4-star level. He left me a few weeks ago, so that's completely over.
Are you shedding any tears for it or not?
I shed a few tears for the horse, but no, I think this is where my attention is completely, and this is what I want to do, and this is exactly what I want to do, and I'm living the dream. Can you ever,
no matter whether this is a career that lasts 10, 20, 30, 40 years, can you ever envisage a career without horses in it?
No, definitely not. And I left school at 17, so to my parents' disapproval, so probably not.
And how good was Jamie Osborne as a jockey?
We won't make his head any bigger than it already is.
Saffie, thanks so much for talking to me. Good luck. And you're at York this afternoon?
No, not anymore.
No. Okay, so no York this afternoon.
No York this afternoon.
Just here, I'll let you go home.
I don't know what I've got to do. I've got a day off.
You can go climb up the walls.
Yeah.
And ring Niall Hannity and ask you why he hasn't got more rides.
Thank you.
Saffie Osborne, who is currently second in the Apprentice Championship. And if there's one safe bet in racing, it is that she's here to stay and she's going to have a glorious and glittering career. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.